April 18, 1941. Leipheim Airfield, Bavaria. The morning air was crisp, laced with the scent of aviation fuel and anticipation. Test pilot Fritz Wendel climbed into the cockpit of the Messerschmitt Me 262 V1 prototype, a sleek, revolutionary machine that promised to redefine aerial warfare. But on this historic day, the aircraft's intended jet engines were not yet ready. Instead, a conventional Junkers Jumo 210 piston engine powered the nose, a temporary measure to test the airframe. As Wendel taxied down the runway, the gathered engineers and Luftwaffe officials held their breath. The Me 262 lifted off smoothly, marking the maiden flight of what would become the world's first operational jet fighter. Little did they know, this breakthrough would be mired in delays, political interference, and technical hurdles that nearly grounded the project before it could soar. The Messerschmitt Me 262, codenamed Schwalbe, or Swallow for its fighter variant, and Sturmvogel, or Stormbird for the fighter-bomber version, emerged from a vision born in the late 1930s, a period when aviation technology was on the cusp of a paradigm shift from piston-driven propellers to the raw power of turbojets. This shift was driven by pioneering work in jet propulsion, with German engineers like Hans von Ohain developing the HES-3 turbojet as early as 1939, setting the stage for what would become a symbol of both innovation and the desperate measures of a faltering regime. The origins of the Me 262 trace back to April 1939, when the Reich Luftfahrtministerium, or RLM, issued a formal request for proposals under the designation Project 1065. This initiative sought a high-speed interceptor aircraft capable of achieving at least 850 kilometers per hour, a velocity that far exceeded the capabilities of contemporary piston-engine fighters. The RLM specifications emphasized endurance of 1 hour and superior performance metrics to counter emerging threats from Allied bomber fleets. Willy Messerschmitt's design team, led by chief designer Waldemar Voigt and supported by aerodynamicist Ludwig Bolko, responded with an innovative concept. Initial blueprints from June 1939 featured engines mounted at the wing roots, a configuration intended to minimize drag and optimize airflow. However, as development progressed, the projected weight of the turbojet engines necessitated revisions. The team encountered early setbacks due to the unproven nature of jet propulsion technology, which was still in its experimental phase across Europe. These challenges were compounded by the broader context of Germany's rearmament efforts, where resources were stretched thin across multiple aircraft programs, including the ongoing production of the Bf 109 and the experimental Me 209 speed record aircraft. By March 1, 1940, the design had evolved significantly. The wings, originally straight, were swept rearwards by 18.5 degrees to maintain the aircraft's center of gravity as engine weights increased. This adjustment, initially driven by structural necessities rather than aerodynamic intent, inadvertently enhanced the aircraft's high-speed stability by increasing its critical Mach number to approximately 0.82. Wind tunnel tests conducted at the Aerodynamische Versuchsanstalt in Göttingen confirmed the benefits of this sweep, although it introduced challenges in low-speed handling that would require further refinements, such as the addition of full-span automatic leading-edge slats. The fuselage adopted a triangular cross-section for structural efficiency, constructed from lightweight aluminum alloys to balance strength and weight. The project faced bureaucratic hurdles. Funding was limited as Luftwaffe leadership prioritized proven piston engine designs like the Bf 109, believing they sufficed for the ongoing conflict. Hermann Göring, the Reich Marshal, further constrained resources by reducing the engine development team to a mere 35 engineers in February 1940, reflecting a broader underestimation of jet technology's potential. Despite these obstacles, Adolf Galland, a prominent Luftwaffe ace, supported the project early on and would later fly the Me-262 on April 22, 1943, describing the experience as feeling as though angels are pushing, a quote that captured the exhilaration of jet flight.
The heart of the Me-262 was its propulsion system, the Junkers Jumo 004 turbojet engine, recognized as the world's first production axial-flow turbojet. Developed under the direction of Anselm France at Junkers Motor and Work, the Jumo 004 represented a technological leap forward. Unlike the centrifugal flow designs pioneered by Frank Whittle in Britain, the axial flow compressor allowed for a more slender profile, better suited to high-speed aircraft integration. The engine comprised an 8-stage axial compressor, 6 individual combustion chambers, and a single-stage turbine, delivering 8.8 kilonewtons of thrust, equivalent to 1,980 pounds-force. Early prototypes, however, were plagued by issues including severe vibrations, compressor stalls, and flameouts during throttle adjustments. Turbine blades, fabricated from heat-resistant alloys such as chromadur, a manganese-chromium steel, frequently failed under the extreme temperatures exceeding 870 degrees Celsius. These failures often resulted in catastrophic engine disintegration, necessitating redesigns to incorporate air cooling channels within the blades. Anselm Franz's team worked tirelessly, conducting over 500 test runs by 1942 to refine the engine, but material shortages, particularly of nickel and chromium, forced compromises that reduced reliability. Developmental delays were compounded by the initial selection of the BMW 003 turbojet, which proved unreliable and underpowered. A pivotal switch to the Jumo 004 occurred after the BMW engines failed during a test flight in November 1941, forcing the pilot to rely on a backup piston engine for a safe landing. On July 18, 1942, the V3 prototype, designated PC+UC, achieved the first successful flight powered solely by turbojets, piloted by Fritz Wendel. The flight lasted 12 minutes, during which Wendel noted the aircraft's stable handling but highlighted the sluggish throttle response, a characteristic that would demand precise pilot input in operational scenarios. The acceleration is unparalleled, Wendel documented in his debriefing, yet low-speed control requires meticulous attention to avoid stalls. This milestone, occurring at Leipheim Airfield, validated the jet concept but underscored persistent vulnerabilities, including voracious fuel consumption that limited operational endurance to 60 to 90 minutes under combat conditions. Fuel requirements were particularly demanding, with the Jumo 004 burning J2 synthetic fuel derived from coal, a resource that became increasingly scarce as Allied bombing disrupted German infrastructure.
Political and strategic interventions further impeded progress. Adolf Hitler and Hermann Göring viewed the Me-262 with a blend of fascination and misapprehension. During a demonstration at Insterburg on November 26, 1943, Hitler became enamored with its potential as a high-speed bomber, coining the term Blitzbomber and insisting on modifications to incorporate bomb-carrying capabilities. This directive prioritized the Sturmvogel fighter-bomber variant over the pure interceptor Schwalbe, resulting in critical delays of several months. General der Jagdflieger Adolf Galland, a staunch advocate for deploying the jet as a defensive fighter against Allied bombing campaigns, vehemently opposed this decision. In his post-war memoirs, Galland recounted, "I implored Hitler to recognize its role as a fighter, not a bomber. He rebuffed my arguments, asserting that its speed would render it invulnerable for ground attack missions." This clash exemplified the Third Reich's strategic myopia, where ideological preferences superseded military pragmatism, ultimately squandering the aircraft's potential to alter the air war's balance. Historians once believed Hitler's order solely delayed the fighter version, but recent analyses reveal that engine development difficulties were the primary culprit, with the bomber diversion affecting only about 30% of production airframes. The technical specifications of the primary production model, the Me-262A1A Schwalbe, highlighted its superiority over contemporaneous designs. The aircraft measured 10.6 meters in length, with a wingspan of 12.6 meters and a height of 3.5 meters. Its empty weight was 3,795 kilograms, escalating to a maximum takeoff weight of 7,130 kilograms. Powered by two Jumo 004B1 axial flow turbojets, it achieved a maximum speed of 900 kilometers per hour at altitude, surpassing Allied fighters such as the North American P-51 Mustang or Supermarine Spitfire by over 200 kilometers per hour. The service ceiling reached 11,450 meters, with a rate of climb of 20 meters per second at maximum weight. Armament consisted of four 30mm Mk108 cannons mounted in the nose, each capable of firing explosive shells that could dismantle heavy bombers with minimal hits. Optional configurations included 24 R-4M unguided rockets for salvo attacks against bomber formations. The range extended to 1,050 kilometers, though this was often curtailed by fuel shortages in the war's latter stages. Performance data from original Messerschmitt records indicate a climb rate of 1,200 meters per minute and a wing loading of 300 kilograms per square meter, contributing to its high-speed prowess but also to challenges in low-speed maneuvers.
Variants of the Me-262 proliferated as operational needs evolved. The A0 served as a pre-production model, with 23 units built for evaluation. The A1A/U1 prototype featured an experimental armament of 6 nose guns, including 2 MG-151/20 cannons, 2 Mk103 cannons, and 2 Mk108s, aimed at enhancing anti-bomber firepower. The A1A/U2 incorporated the FUG-220 Liechtenstein SN2 radar for night fighter trials. Reconnaissance variants like the A1A/U3 replaced cannons with RB-20/30 or RB-75/30 cameras for high-speed photographic missions. The A1A/U4 was designed as a bomber destroyer with a 50mm Mk214 or BK5 anti-tank gun, though only prototypes were built due to recoil issues. The A1A/U5 tested 6 Mk108 cannons for maximum firepower. The A1B variant experimented with BMW 003A engines, achieving speeds up to 800 km per hour, but suffering from similar reliability problems. The A2A Sturmvogel, the definitive bomber version, retained 2 Mk108 cannons while adding bomb racks for up to 1,000 kilograms of ordnance, including 2 500-kilogram bombs. Subvariants like the A2A/U1 featured an advanced bomb sight, and the A2A/U2 had a glazed nose for a bombardier. Proposed but unbuilt models included the A3A for ground attack with additional armor, and the A4A/A5A for extended reconnaissance with extra fuel tanks. Production efforts intensified in 1944 amid escalating Allied pressure. Messerschmitt's facilities were dispersed across Germany and occupied territories to mitigate bombing raids, including underground complexes such as Weingut I in Yerkofering and the Bergkristall Ischia II in Austria. These sites relied heavily on forced labor from concentration camps, including Mauthausen-Gusen, where an estimated 35,000 to 50,000 prisoners endured appalling conditions, with average life expectancies of 6 months due to malnutrition, disease, and brutality. By the war's conclusion, approximately 1,430 Me-262s were manufactured, yet fewer than 300 entered combat service. Monthly production peaked at 59 aircraft in July 1944, constrained by shortages of strategic materials like nickel, cobalt, and molybdenum, essential for turbine components.
Substitutions with inferior mild steels reduced engine durability, with the Jumo 004B's turbine blades requiring overhaul every 25 to 35 hours, far short of the targeted 100 hours. Production statistics reveal that from June 1944 to April 1945, 1,294 airframes were completed, with engines produced at a rate of 500 per month by late 1944. Underground facilities like Mittelwerk, infamous for V-2 rocket production, were adapted for jet components, though efficiency suffered from labor conditions and sabotage.
Engine development challenges were central to the Me-262's narrative. The Jumo 004's innovative hollow, air-cooled turbine blades addressed thermal stresses, but early iterations suffered from frequent failures. Compressor stalls during abrupt throttle movements could lead to flameouts, posing lethal risks in dogfights or during takeoff. And some friends later reflected on these compromises. Wartime exigencies demanded sacrifices in longevity for expedited production. In comparison to British contemporaries like the Rolls-Royce Derwent, the Jumo lacked access to advanced alloys, resulting in shorter service intervals. Innovations included an electric starter powered by a Riddell two-stroke auxiliary power unit, though manual pull cord starts were employed in emergencies. Despite these limitations, the axial flow design profoundly influenced post-war jet engines, serving as the basis for Soviet RD-10 and Czech M04 derivatives. Engine tests highlighted issues like vibration-induced fatigue, with early models lasting only 10 to 25 hours before requiring complete rebuilds, a factor that contributed to high accident rates among operational units. Operational deployment commenced in April 1944 with the formation of Erprobungskommando 262, or EKDO 262, at Lechfeld Airfield, under the command of Major Werner Thierfelder. This test unit focused on evaluating tactics and training pilots accustomed to piston-engine aircraft. Initial flights revealed the Me-262's high takeoff and landing speeds, approximately 200 kilometers per hour, rendering it susceptible to accidents on unprepared runways. The tricycle landing gear, a novelty for German fighters, retracted hydraulically, but was prone to failures under combat stress, with nose wheel collapses accounting for 14.8% of losses in some units. By July 1944, EKDO 262 recorded its first engagements. Lieutenant Alfred Schreiber pursued a de Havilland Mosquito PR Mk-16 reconnaissance aircraft on July 26 over Munich, though the claim remained unconfirmed. The unit's first verified victory occurred on August 8 when Lieutenant Joachim Weber downed Mosquito PRIX LR-433, resulting in the loss of pilot Flight Lieutenant Desmond Lawrence Matthewman and navigator Flight Sergeant William Stopford. These early successes demonstrated the jet's potential, but also exposed vulnerabilities, such as the need for extended runways and the risk of engine flameouts during rapid maneuvers.
5:30. Major Walter Nowotny, an Austrian ace with 258 aerial victories primarily on the Eastern Front, assumed command in July 1944, redesignating the unit as Kommando Nowotny. Based at Achmer and Hessepe near Osnabrück, the squadron targeted Allied bomber streams penetrating German airspace. Pilots refined roller coaster tactics, approaching from above and behind at superior altitude, diving through formations while firing cannons at close range, then exploiting speed to disengage. The Mk-108's low muzzle velocity necessitated proximity of 500 meters, but its high explosive shells proved devastating against B-17 flying fortresses. By August, the unit claimed 19 Allied aircraft for 6 losses. Nowotny personally achieved 3 victories on the Me-262, including 2 P-51 Mustangs on November 8, 1944. Tragically, that same day, engine failure during an interception mission led to his fatal crash, witnessed by Galland, after sustaining damage from escort fighters. Nowotny's death highlighted the perils of jet operations, with his squadron experiencing high attrition rates due to inadequate training and mechanical issues. 6 o'clock. Adolf Galland,
relieved of his position as Inspector of Fighters in January 1945 following disputes with Göring over resource allocation, established Jagdverband 44, JV-44, in February 1945. This elite formation, often referred to as Galland's Circus, assembled veteran aces including Heinrich Bär, 16 Me-262 kills, total 240 victories, and Johannes Steinhoff. Operating from Munich-Rhein, the unit adopted distinctive red and white striped undersides for friendly identification. Galland emphasized hit-and-run strategies. "Our speed serves as armor," he instructed pilots during briefings. JV-44 accounted for over 50 Allied aircraft, primarily bombers and escorts. Despite chronic fuel shortages that grounded operations frequently, Bär recounted a March 1945 sortie. "We plunged through the Mustang screen like lightning, obliterating a flying fortress with precise cannon fire. Yet returning to base amid flak barrages was perilous." Steinhoff, who survived a crash in an Me-262 due to bird strikes damaging both engines, later described the aircraft's handling as delightful to fly, as long as the pilot used care in moving the throttles to avoid an engine compressor stall.
Jagdgeschwader 7, or Jäger 7, activated in January 1945 under Major Gerhard Barkhorn, emerged as the largest jet-equipped wing, comprising 3 groups. Stationed at Parchim and Kaltenkirchen, Jota G-7 conducted large-scale interceptions against U.S. 8th Air Force raids. On March 18, 1945, 37 Me-262s engaged a force of 1,221 bombers escorted by 632 fighters, downing 12 bombers and 1 fighter while suffering 3 losses, a kill-to-loss ratio of 4-1, though representing only 1% of the attacking formation. Tactics evolved to incorporate R-4M rockets. Launching salvos from 600 meters could cripple multiple bombers simultaneously. Hauptwind Franz Schall, with 17 confirmed kills, 6 bombers and 10 P-51s, exemplified the jet's potency in skilled hands. However, vulnerabilities during takeoff and landing persisted, prompting Allied rat scramble patrols to target jets at airfields. Barkhorn, with a total of 301 victories, adapted his Eastern Front experience to jet combat, emphasizing energy management over traditional dogfighting. Night fighter adaptations, such as the B-1 Alpha U-1 with Fug 218 Neptune radar, demonstrated efficacy against RAF Mosquito intruders. Oberlieutenant Kurt Welter, commanding 10th Nacht Jagdgeschwader 11, claimed 25 Mosquitoes in nocturnal engagements, supplemented by daytime victories. Employing Wildesau, or wild boar, free hunting methods, his unit accounted for the majority of 13 Mosquitoes lost over Berlin in early 1945. Reconnaissance variants equipped with RB-5030 cameras provided critical intelligence, though high velocities initially caused image blurring until procedural adjustments were made. Bomber configurations in Kampfgeschwader 51 undertook ground attack roles, but Hitler's mandates restricted their strategic utility. On April 24, 1945, 31 Yayat G-7 jets strafed Soviet positions near Cottbus, reporting destruction of vehicles and aircraft, but incurring 3 losses to ground fire. 2 days later, on April 26, 1945, a similar mission claimed additional Soviet targets, underscoring the Me-262's versatility in the war's final days.
The Me-262's overall impact on World War II was substantial, yet constrained by its belated deployment and limited availability. German pilots claimed between 542 and 745 Allied aircraft destroyed, with U.S. Navy analyses corroborating many of these. The aircraft inflicted an estimated 300 to 450 confirmed losses on Allied forces, primarily heavy bombers. General Carl Spaatz, commander of U.S. Strategic Air Forces, expressed concerns that widespread Me-262 operations could terminate daylight bombing campaigns. Nevertheless, with never more than 100 jets operational simultaneously and reliability issues, engine life averaging 10 to 25 hours, the aircraft failed to reverse the Luftwaffe's decline.
Pilots like Hubert Lang noted the Hawker Tempest's threat during vulnerable phases, stating, quote, "The Messerschmitt Me-262's most dangerous opponent was the British Hawker Tempest, extremely fast at low altitudes, highly maneuverable, and heavily armed." Captured documents revealed 33% of accidents stemmed from engine malfunctions, with 60 to 70% attributed to non-combat factors such as landing gear failures. Dive tests showed the aircraft went out of control at Mach 0.86, with higher speeds causing unrecoverable nose-down trim. Notable pilots contributed indelibly to the Me-262's legacy. Galland, who first flew a prototype on April 22, 1943, described the sensation as, quote, "though angels are pushing." His JV-44 embodied a blend of desperation and tactical brilliance amid the Reich's collapse. Nowotny's demise symbolized the inherent risks. His squadron's elevated attrition rates reflected inadequate training for transitioning pilots from disbanded units. Heinrich Bär, amassing 16 jet victories, hailed it as the most formidable aircraft of World War II. British test pilot Eric Brown, evaluating captured specimens post-war, commended its velocity but critiqued compressibility effects at Mach 0.86, stating, quote, "the aircraft enters an uncontrollable dive without air brakes." Other aces, including Gerhard Barkhorn, total 301 victories, and Johannes Steinhoff, total 176 victories, adapted piston-honed skills to jet combat, emphasizing energy management over traditional turn fighting. Franz Schall's 17 kills included innovative maneuvers, such as using speed to loop around bomber boxes for repeated passes. Erich Rudorfer claimed 12 victories, while Walter Dahl achieved 11, including encounters with Soviet LA-7s.
Industrial obstacles mirrored Germany's broader wartime deterioration. Production facilities, such as those at Obertrobling, suffered repeated Allied bombings, with raids in February 1945 destroying dozens of incomplete airframes. The reliance on slave labor in subterranean factories led to sabotage-induced defects, compromising quality. Fuel supplies, derived from synthetic J2 processed from brown coal, dwindled severely by 1945, restricting sorties to intermittent bursts. In contrast to Allied jets, like the Gloucester Meteor, which entered service in July 1944 but avoided air-to-air combat, the Me-262 boasted superior speed yet inferior reliability. Post-war evaluations by the U.S. at Farnborough confirmed a top speed of 869 kilometers per hour, validating its engineering merits despite operational shortcomings. The use of forced labor at sites like Gusen concentration camp, where prisoners assembled components under brutal conditions, highlighted the ethical horrors underpinning the program, with life expectancies averaging 6 months. The post-war legacy of the Me-262 extended far beyond the conflict. Captured examples were scrutinized by Allied powers, profoundly shaping subsequent designs. The Soviet Union reverse-engineered the J-004 as the RD-10, powering early jets like the Yak-15. Czechoslovakia produced the Avia S-92 single-seat and CS-92 two-seat trainer until 1951, employing them in their Air Force. American and British analyses influenced aircraft such as the North American F-86 Sabre and the improved Gloucester Meteor variants. Preserved specimens reside in museums worldwide, including the National Air and Space Museum's complete A-1A and the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force's example. Modern reproductions from the Me-262 project in the United States, equipped with General Electric J610 engines, continue to fly, preserving the aircraft's historical significance for educational purposes. Eric Brown, who flew 487 different aircraft types, including captured Me-262s, logged extensive test data that informed post-war aviation safety standards.
Hitler's personal interference stands as a pivotal factor in the Me-262's underutilization. By mandating bomber modifications, he deferred fighter production, wasting precious months during which Allied air superiority solidified. Armaments Minister Albert Speer later asserted that prioritizing the jet in 1943 could have yielded a year earlier deployment. Galland lamented in retrospect, "We possessed the means to alter the air war, yet political whims prevailed." This miscalculation, rooted in ideological rigidity, exemplified the regime's flaws, contributing to needless casualties and expediting defeat. Historians note that while Hitler's order diverted about 30% of airframes to bomber variants, the core delays stemmed from engine development and material shortages. The Me-262 revolutionized aviation by demonstrating the viability of jet propulsion in combat. Its axial flow engines, swept wings, and heavy armament set precedents for future generations of fighters. Yet it also underscored the pitfalls of authoritarian decision-making, innovative engineering stifled by political meddling, resources misallocated amid scarcity. Contemporary strategists draw lessons from Göring's dismissal of Allied industrial might, but the Schwalbe serves as a cautionary tale that technological superiority alone does not secure victory. Coherent strategy and human factors are paramount. The aircraft's influence extended to aerodynamic research, with its wing design inspiring high-speed studies that led to the development of swept-wing jets in the Cold War era. To delve deeper into the design philosophy, consider the aerodynamic innovations. The wing's NACA-derived airfoils 000115.82535 at the route transitioning to 0009 1.1040 at the tip were later refined to AVL derivatives for optimized lift distribution. The stressed skin construction, with skin thicknesses varying from 3 mm at the root to 1 mm at the tip, minimized weight while maintaining rigidity. Internal unpainted surfaces conserved materials, a necessity under wartime rationing. The wing fuselage attachment utilized 4 robust bolts, facilitating rapid assembly in dispersed factories. These elements combined to yield a thrust-to-weight ratio of 0.28, enabling exceptional climb performance despite the high wing loading of 300 kilograms per square meter. Elliptical nose sections on control surfaces enhanced stability, a tradition from earlier Messerschmitt designs like the Bf-109. Engine integration posed unique challenges. The underwing pod mounting, while simplifying maintenance, exposed the power plants to ground fire and debris ingestion during operations from grass strips. Exhaust deflection during takeoff risked scorching the runway or inducing tail lift issues, mitigated by pilots employing brief brake applications to elevate the nose. The Jumo 004's fuel system accommodated J2 diesel or B4 aviation gasoline, but impurities in synthetic fuels accelerated wear. Overhaul procedures involved complete engine swaps, as field repairs were impractical due to the complexity of the axial compressor stages. Early models suffered from turbine blade creep under heat, leading to failures after as few as 10 hours, a problem partially addressed by air cooling but never fully resolved amid material constraints. Operational training emphasized these nuances. Pilots transitioning from aircraft like the FW-190 underwent rigorous ground school on throttle management to prevent flameouts. Simulated emergencies, including single-engine handling, were critical, as the Me-262's asymmetric thrust could induce uncontrollable yaws. Flight manuals prescribed minimum speeds of 300 km per hour for safe maneuvering, with automatic leading-edge slats deploying below this threshold to enhance lift and prevent stalls. Training was often curtailed by fuel shortages, leading to pilots entering combat with minimal jet experience. Sometimes their second familiarization flight was an actual battle, contributing to high accident rates. Specific battles illustrate the Me-262's tactical employment. During the Ardennes Offensive in December 1944, jets from KG-J-51 attempted close air support but were hampered by poor weather and fuel constraints. In January 1945, JG-7's interception of a raid on Magdeburg resulted in 8 bomber claims for 2 losses, demonstrating the effectiveness of coordinated attacks. The unit's 3 Kuppe, under Hauptmann Rudolf Sinner, specialized in rocket salvos, with each R-4M carrying a 520-gram high-explosive warhead capable of penetrating bomber armor. On March 31, 1945, a formation of 28 Me-262s from JG-7 was intercepted by Mustangs over Hamburg, leading to 5 jet losses, highlighting the risks of escort engagements. Allied countermeasures evolved rapidly. RAF Tempests and USAAF P-47 Thunderbolts patrolled Luftwaffe airfields, ambushing jets during vulnerable phases. Intelligence reports from captured pilots revealed German tactics, prompting escorts to position at higher altitudes for diving intercepts. The first aerial victory over an Me-262 was claimed by a Supermarine Spitfire LF Mike 9 from No. 401 Squadron RCAF on October 5, 1944, downing Hauptmann Hans Christoph Bootmann's aircraft near Overasselt. Ground-based defenses also took a toll, with RAF Regiment Bofors guns claiming the first ground-to-air kill on November 26, 1944, at Helmond, Netherlands. The reconnaissance role, though less glamorous, proved invaluable. A1A/U3 variants conducted high-altitude sorties over Allied lines, capturing imagery of troop movements and supply depots. One notable mission in February 1945 photographed the Remagen Bridge intact, alerting command to potential crossings, though response was delayed. These operations often involved unarmed aircraft to maximize speed and altitude, reaching up to 12,000 meters where interception was nearly impossible.
Post-war evaluations by the Allies provided objective assessments. The U.S. Army Air Force's Operation Lusty acquired several intact Me-262s, testing them at Wright Field. Reports praised the aircraft's speed and firepower, but noted poor low-speed controllability and engine fragility. British trials at the Royal Aircraft Establishment confirmed compressibility effects, with test dives approaching Mach 0.84, inducing nose-down tendencies. Eric Brown, in his evaluations, highlighted the need for careful throttle control to avoid stalls, influencing training protocols for early Allied jets. The human element cannot be overlooked. Pilots faced immense psychological strain, operating advanced machines amid a collapsing front. Steinhoff's memoirs describe the exhilaration of outpacing pursuers, tempered by the constant threat of mechanical failure. Bär's 16 jet victories included innovative maneuvers, such as using speed to loop around bomber boxes for repeated passes. Many pilots, like Georg Petter Ader, 12 kills, 9 P-51s, and Heinz Helmut Baudock, 6, including 1 Spitfire and 2 P-51s, transitioned from Eastern Front experience, adapting to the jet's unique demands. Production statistics reveal the scale of effort. From June 1944 to April 1945, output totaled 1,294 airframes, with engines produced at a rate of 500 per month by late 1944. Underground facilities like Mittelwerk, infamous for V-2 production, were adapted for jet components, though efficiency suffered from labor conditions. Slave labor at Kaufering and Gusen camps involved tens of thousands, with horrific mortality rates, underscoring the moral cost of the program.
Comparative analysis with contemporaries underscores the Me-262's edge. The Meteor, with centrifugal engines, topped at 960 kilometers per hour but carried lighter armament. The Lockheed P-80 Shooting Star, entering service post-war, benefited from lessons learned from captured German technology. The Me-262's kill claims, ranging from 300 to 542, reflect its potential, though limited by numbers and logistics. In conclusion, the Messerschmitt Me-262 stands as a testament to engineering ingenuity amid adversity. Its development, marked by innovation and impediment, reshaped aviation history. While its wartime impact was curtailed, its legacy endures in modern jet design, reminding us of the interplay between technology, strategy, and human resolve. The aircraft not only pioneered jet combat, but also highlighted the tragic human costs and strategic missteps of the era, serving as a profound lesson in the annals of military history.